I think we've all had that experience of being in a crowded space with lots of background noise. And suddenly someone across the room says our name. And despite not being able to hear anything else they said, somehow that one word cuts through the noise. There's a power to our names. There's an instinct to recognize them. And I think that when Mary Magdalene was there in the middle of grief, her eyes blurred by tears, her mind caught in her grief, the fact that she heard her name and then was able to recognize Jesus in his glorified body, in his resurrected self, there's a lot of meaning in that. Because in that moment, she realized that the one who was speaking to her knew her. And because of that, she was able to recognize that the one who was speaking to her loved her and had something great in store for her. And I was able to break through her grief, break through all the emotions that were there, all the worries, all the anxieties. She was able to recognize that God had something great in store. And I think that's an important lesson for us, because we need to be able to turn to the Lord and hear our own names being spoken by Him in love. And that takes a lot of prayer, because the Lord is always calling to us, is always speaking to us. But we too have a lot going on. We too have our own anxieties, our own worries, our own responsibilities. We're all busy and doing things and distracted. And it's hard to hear the Lord calling. But we know that He's calling each one of us by name, because He knows and loves each one of us fully. And so we have to listen for our name in the prayer. Listen for how the Lord is calling each one of us in the unique way that He is speaking to each one of us. And if we can let that name break through, then we'll be able to listen for what the Lord has in store for us. And the Lord has something great in store for us. And that's the second lesson we learn from St. Mary Magdalene. Because the next thing Jesus says to her is to not be holding on to Him, because there is the next step. He needs to ascend to the Father and send the Holy Spirit upon her. And that must have been incredibly difficult, because she had come to the tomb looking for Him. And there He was. But He was telling her that she can't stay there with Him. She has a mission. She needs to go to the disciples. She needs to announce to them that He is risen, that the world is changed. And that must have been difficult. But because she accepted her mission, she changed the world. She transformed it for the better. And I think we have to recognize that when we're listening to God's voice, we're not listening for it with our expectations. We're not supposed to catch on to God and say, well, this is what you need to do next. We have to let Him take the lead. Let Him show us His plan for us. Because when He speaks our names, He shows that He knows us best. So today, as we go through this beautiful Easter season, let's turn to the Lord. Listen for our names. and let Him lead us to where our true happiness lies.